Hey you guys, it's Amy Gretchen. Welcome back. In this video, I'm working on days 5 and 6 in my 2021 December daily album. And on my desk, I have day 5, and it's a photo of me as I'm dropping my daughter off at the airport with some journaling that I used the mink with. And then I have a card that I created. It says be all in, and I'm using an alpha set that I created. This is a cut file, or it has individual cut files of the alpha, and you can see that as you fold over part of the letter, it's creating the entire letter. So you will definitely see that coming up, and I will explain it to you guys a little bit later. But I wanted to jump in to what I'm working on right now. So I did create this text in Photoshop, used toner to print it out, and then I used the Mink machine. So I don't use the Mink machine a lot. I kind of reach for the foil quill more because I don't have great luck with the Mink machine. Often things are not coming out completely foiled, and I see other people do it and it looks really stunning. And so I thought, you know what, this time I'm going to try to do it. So I did try and do it, and I used this pink. I thought it would be fun to try something a little bit different, and I actually really liked it. But when I put it up against the photo, I felt like it was really hard to read. And the one thing about this day that I should explain is I have a lot of emotion about this experience, about this story that I'm telling. And so what I really wanted is for you to be able to read the story, for my children to be able to read the story. And so you'll see a little bit later that I opt to do something a little bit different. I end up creating a flip, but I'll do that later once I kind of realize it's really hard to actually read this journaling. But let's jump into what I'm doing on the screen. So like I said in the beginning, I created this alpha set, and a lot of the letters, if you know, are symmetrical. And so if you cut them in half and fold them down, it creates an entire letter. I thought it would be really cool to cut this out in this way so that you could put pattern paper, or you could even do like a solid gold or something like that behind, and it would just be a really fun way to have a phrase or a word in the album. And so I created this cut file. This is something that will be available on my Etsy shop if you would like to purchase it. And it can be used at any size. You could definitely make it bigger at any size, and you will be able to use it with the cricket in the silhouette as well. So just keep that in mind. I also want you guys to realize that I wanted to include kind of like a how-to in this video, but as I was looking at it, I think the video was close to an hour long. And so I decided to take the how to use this alpha, and I will do it on a separate video. So if you do choose to purchase it, there will be a video coming up shortly that will show you how you can use it or how to work with it. So just keep that in mind. I just wanted you guys to be aware of that so you will know how to use the file. So anyway, what I'm doing is I'm just looking through a bunch of pattern papers. All of these papers that I'm working with are from Crate Paper. So these came in the 6x8 pads. It's basically the last 4 years. I think it was like Merry Days, and the newest one, which was the Busy Sidewalks, and something with snowflakes, and I can't remember, but I thought I have 4 pads. And so I was just looking through at different colors that I might want to use. It's interesting because as I finished this, I was like, oh, I felt like the patterns that I used and doing all different patterns kind of made this layout feel a little bit whimsy, where I wanted it to feel, I don't know, the journaling wasn't so whimsy. And so I was like, should I have just done like one solid color in the back, or should I have done more of like, I could have done gold, and that would have felt maybe a little bit more, I don't want to say sophisticated, but more in line with the tone of the journaling. But you know what? In the end, after I kept looking at it over and over again, I actually really loved what it looked like with the different patterns. So I just want you guys to realize that there are several different options for you. You could just do one color, or you could mix it up. You could do each word with one. There's several things that you could do as you're working through this. I just think it's a lot of fun. And I will definitely be doing this again. It was something like I knew that this was a technique that I wanted to use because I created this cut file back in probably October, and I knew that I wanted to use it for December daily, and I was like, do I really want to use it for this day on this story and not use it again? And I decided that I can totally use this again. Of course I can use this again. That's what's so fun about this. I mean, I use the same font for my journaling. So why can't I use the same font to create something like this again? So you will probably likely see this again in my December daily, or of course other projects coming up, just because I think this is a really fun alpha set. So anyway, I'm just working my way through each of the letters and going through, and obviously I'm choosing a lot of greens and pinks and trying to get a couple different colors of green as well, and just having fun working with the patterns. I've decided I do not add enough pattern paper to my projects, and I really do like pattern paper. So definitely a goal of mine as I work through, my projects for 2022 and even in project life, just to add more. There's definitely a lot that you can do with, like, let's say a 3x4 card in project life. You could add journaling right onto the pattern paper, or if it's too busy, you can add it to some vellum and then put that over the pattern paper. And that's a great way to be able to use it if the pattern is a little too busy. So, all right, I think I've got one more left to do, and I'm kind of cutting down some of the paper. You can see that I'm not even doing this really well. It's kind of a mess on the back, which is fine because it's going to get covered, but the papers are a little bit thick. So I was trying to kind of cut it down so there wouldn't be too much bulk in the back. One thing that I have realized as I'm looking at my album now that I've done 11 days, it's getting kind of thick. So the 2-inch rings that I purchased, I think are just going to be a little too small, and I'm probably going to have to get bigger rings. But anyways, it's really fun to see it all coming together, and I'm really grateful that I've been able to keep up on it. I would love to hear how you guys are doing it with your December dailies. Are you doing it as you go? Are you doing it once December is over or Christmas is over? I know that we all do it in very different ways, so I'd love to hear how you choose to work on your December daily. All right, so I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I just glued down those flaps, and then I realized, I want the flaps to feel like they're coming off a little bit. So I tried to peel them off a little bit, but what I end up doing is sewing them down. So you will see that coming up, how I kind of sewed them down, but right now the glue is kind of keeping it in place. All right, so it's at this point that I realize I cannot read, and I really want to read the journaling, and so I'm deciding to do a flip up. So in order to do that, I need to make the photo a little bit smaller because of the rings. Obviously, you're not going to be able to flip with the rings, and I chose to flip up. I could have flipped out, actually. Now that I'm thinking about that, that probably would have been the better choice, just because the number 5 that I chose to use sticks out of the album, which is not a big deal, but it's just one of those things. I hadn't thought about that, but that's an option as well if you're going to do this. So I went ahead and reprinted my journaling just onto a white piece of cardstock, which makes me really happy because then you can really read it. And I'm trimming it down so that it is the size of the photo. And then I'm going to create the flip up portion. And the flip up's actually really, really easy to do. The first thing that you want to do is get some text weight paper. I like to use text weight paper because it's really thin and it's reliable. I've tried doing this with vellum and it doesn't lay flat, kind of sticks up a little bit. So I really like using the text weight paper, and I've had no problems at all with it wearing down or anything like that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm cutting it to size, and it doesn't need to be really big. It just need, I think mine is maybe like 3/4 of an inch after you've gone ahead and folded it down. And then I'm going to adhere it to the photo, just one side to the photo. And then I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to adhere the journaling to the inside of the fold. So the photo is going to be on the outside of the fold, and then the journaling is going to be on the inside of the fold. So hopefully that makes sense. As you're kind of working through it and constructing it, it'll make sense when you flip it open exactly where you need to add your journaling. All right, so the next step is to get this into our album. And the best way to do that, or the best way I like to do that, is with a transparency. So I went looking through my scraps and I found this piece of transparency that I made in my December Daily 2020 album. So just a few weeks ago. And this was a leftover piece. And if you look at it really closely, the top and the bottom, the pattern doesn't actually get finished, but I loved it enough that I wanted to use it. This is actually a pattern that I should make bigger because I would love to use it again. At any rate, I just created it using the foil quill. So I created the pattern and then I used the foil quill to put the gold onto the transparency. So as you can see, it works really well with the transparency. So as you can see off screen, I did some stitching on the Be All In. I really wanted to stitch down those flaps, or at least make it look like stitching down is what was holding it down. You saw that I did previously glue it. I've seen this look a lot of times and I really like it. And so I thought it would be a great option to do here. It just added a little something and definitely texture to the spread or to the card. And so I chose to do that. And now you can see that I am punching holes in the card. You know, I adhered it to day 4, punching those holes in both the card and then in the transparency as well. So the next step for day 5, and I'm almost finished with this, is I want to back the photo just because it's photo paper. You definitely don't have to do this, but I think it makes it just a little bit nicer. So I grabbed over some more paper from the crate paper. I think this one is from Merry Days, this green. I really love this green on green and I love that pattern. So I went ahead and I'm just adhering it down, and then I'm going to go off screen and cut off the edges. I decided to use my big cutter. It's just a lot easier to get a cleaner line. And so you'll see that I think I went to attempt to do it and then I was like, oh, I'm going to definitely do that off screen. So the last thing that I'm going to do is add a number. So I'm adding this number 5, this circle, which I've told you guys before is like, these are my favorite numbers. I'm going to be really sad when they're all gone. In fact, I really hope Allie will make some more in some different colors because I want to use them all the time. And then I put another sticker on the back of that as well, and just called day 5 done. So I am completely finished with day 5 and I'm going to move on to day 6. So I'm trying to decide why I'm actually putting it in the album because then I end up taking it right back out. But so I'm moving on to day 6, and day 6 is a wish list. So I've done this before. I think I might do this every year. It's basically what I am hoping for December. And, you know, some of those things included stuff like, you know, my daughter coming to stay with us and baking cookies together and getting a massage and sleeping well. Like, these are the things that I'm wishing for. Some of them are more like December related and some of them more are just life related. So I was thinking about trimming it down and how to cut it. And I thought, you know, before I do that, I need to figure out what I'm doing with this wreath at the top. So I grabbed over this die cut. This is from the Stamp Market, and I want to stack them together to kind of create a place for my title and or maybe my number. At this point, I don't think I was 100% sure what I wanted to do with the number. So I'm just kind of playing with them. I'm using the larger leaves. I'm not going to use any of the smaller ones, but I'm just playing around with them and trying to figure out exactly how to add them so it looks kind of like a wreath, so it looks rounded. I wanted it to feel like it was, you know, coming from the right and then moving down and then going up towards the left. So you can see that I'm just, you know, trying to maneuver everything around. And then I realized I probably need to cut down, I think at that point I realized I could cut down the bottom because I knew how much space I needed at the top. And then I'm working on the sides. And one of the errors that I made is I cut down one of the sides and then I cut down the other side partially. So I didn't do it all the way. And I wasn't sure if I just thought, oh, I'll do that afterwards. And just to make sure that it fits perfectly on the back side of day 5. I wasn't sure my thinking on this. However, I forgot that I had done that when I was working at putting the wreaths down. So I probably would have adjusted the wreaths a little bit better. I was a little disappointed when I ended up having to cut off the wreaths once they were like glued on at the end, but I I just didn't think of that at the time. So it's not a big deal, but it's just one of those things that I wish I had done a little bit differently. So at this point, I am, getting everything in place so I can adhere it down. You can see I'm starting with the bottom and then kind of moving my way up. And you'll see as I go through, I kind of add some layers to the holes. One of the things that I decided to do with this is I really wanted it to feel like it was kind of coming off the page a little bit. And so I just put glue down the spine and then I kind of lifted up the paper, kind of curled the paper slightly on the leaves so it looked like it was coming off the page and that it wasn't flat, but that it was a little bit 3D. I really loved the look of this. And this is kind of what I was trying to go for on day 5 with the letters, which is why when I glued them down, I was trying to unglue them because I wanted it to feel like it was kind of coming off the page a little bit, but I wasn't able to achieve the same thing. So in the end, I just went ahead and I stitched it. So I've got everything glued down here and I do have some excess I'm going to cut off, and then you'll see that I end up using that to fill in some of the pieces in the front because I felt like it was a little bit fuller on the right side. So you'll see that I'll cut off this top and then I'll begin to try and fill the pieces in. And then I do kind of maneuver things around once I realize I need to cut off the edge. So anyway, there is a hole, but you'll see that I fill it in. So I'm going to work on the title. So wish list, this was a digital file from Ali Edwards. Like always, if I can find it on her shop, I will link to it. I think it might have been a stamp set. I can't now remember. I remember there being other words with similar handwriting. And so I think it might have all been included in a stamp set. But like I said, if I can find it, I will definitely link it below. And I cut out multiple because I really wanted to stack them. I'm a really big fan of stacking die cuts, especially words, because I feel like it just gives it a lot of dimension and makes it feel like chipboard. So I really like to do that. And so after I get the placement right, after I figured out where I want to put the word, and it takes me just a minute to kind of figure that out, then I will begin to stack it up. Now, this is something that I believe, if I remember right, I skipped through because it's just me gluing the words on top of each other. And I didn't feel like it, I felt like this video was going so long that I felt like if I could trim something, then I could definitely trim this. So you won't see me stack these words together, but I did stack them and it gave them a little bit more dimension. So if you're looking for a way to kind of boost your titles, this is a really great way to do that. All right, so I just went ahead and I adhered it all down right onto the foliage. And then I'm going to try and fill in that gap. So you can kind of see there's that gap next to the word list, and I want to fill it in. And I'm trying to decide, do I need to do another die cut? Can I use the smaller ones? What am I going to do? And I do end up figuring it out once I cut down this piece of paper to the size that it needs to be. Then I do end up having some excess. I think maybe at that point is when I realize that there is some excess there. So anyway, just kind of fiddling around and trying to figure out what I want to do. That, I guess, that is the point where I realized that I have a little bit of excess there. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere it down to the back of day 5. And I don't know why, I feel like this is almost one of the hardest parts because you're really trying to get it on just right so it's not uneven. And I do apologize for having to skip over that, but every time I do that, my big head just gets in the way. So I had to crop that off. So you didn't end up having to see my big head. But anyway, I've cut it down off screen and it is adhered to the back of day 5. And now I'm just, like I said, filling in that gap so that it doesn't look too open. And you guys, that's going to be it for day 5 other than adding the number. So I just need to add the number, and I had my stickers next to me. And so I thought, you know what, why not just add a simple 6? So I grabbed over the red. I don't know if any of you guys have these numbers. Ali has sold them in a variety of colors, and I just think that they are invaluable when it comes to storytelling. So I'm just grabbing over the number 6, and I decided to do 06 because I really like to add the 0 when it's just a single digit. And I just decided to put it in the corner and just make it really easy. So I'm done, you guys, with day 5 and 6. I really love how these turned out and how they look added into my album. So anyway, if you guys have any questions, please let me know in the comment section below. And like always, thank you guys so much for being here. It really means a lot. And of course, if you like what you saw, please give this video a thumbs up. All right, you guys, we will see you in the next one for days 7 and 8. Bye.